Hello, this is Wmpyr. For today, I want to explain to you guys the force to force block. Um, the reason being is because it is so important to my style, what I teach of B1 Escrima. So in B1, yeah, the force to force block it's like a core technique. If you were to only learn one technique from Filipino martial arts, I would say go with a force to force block. You could throw away the rest. I mean, I think it's great if you could study more than that, and if you study the other stuff, of course, add the other stuff to your arsenal. But if it comes down to it, this is the one, guys. It really, really is. That's how I feel. So, um, let me yeah, explain what the hell it is. What is the force to force block? So the ultimate application for the force to force block is that in real life, someone attacks you with a knife or something. You have a bag, like a defense bag, something like this, like a crossbody bag, but whether it's an Indiana Jones style bag, a crossbody bag, a belt bag, or for ladies, it's some kind of purse, okay, or even a backpack, a light backpack, not a massive heavy one, but you're going to use that. I call it a defense bag. So you're going to use it for self-defense, and you're going to hold it, and you're going to boom, boom. That's the main idea against the knife or whatever it is that's coming at you. You're going to swat it down using this. Now, if you could attach some keys on here, then it has a little bit of now attacking potential, so that's good. And the other thing to remember is that this itself, I have 1, 2, 3 fist length. To me, this is like the minimum. If it gets any smaller than that, your percentage of defense failure rate, it's just too much. So, at least a minimum of 3 fist length, okay, is what I'm recommending. So that's the main idea with the defense bag. And of course, in here, you could put in something that's solid, like a book, a magazine, whatever. You put stuff in there that's going to give it some substance. It can't be soft and flexible. This, you see, I can't fold this because there's some stuff in here. So you want it to have a skeleton in there that it's going to hold the shape. Why? Because every inch is going to count, sometimes millimeters, because when they come stabbing at you and this gives, then it's not much of a shield, essentially. This is like a buckler shield, so it's not a good shield in that sense. So and there's other things, like if you do have a strap on here, maybe you could use the strap to give you some distance, some reach, to get them to back off more, once you've defended, so there's a lot of possibilities with this. But what I like is that this is going to be on you, on the outside, so it's not something I have to dig in and look for. It's right there. And if you start seeing a situation that that doesn't look right, you could get this ready, and you could just be holding it like this under your arm like that, and you're ready. So boom, comes out right away. So anyway, that's the idea. So the actual technique for that is the force to force block, and we learned that through the sticks. Okay, where does that technique come from? Back in 1990, when I learned modern Arnis, which is the Professor Remy Pressa style, that's my lineage, right? That was one of the techniques that we learned. So we learned a bunch of techniques. One of them was called the force to force block. And the way that it was taught to us, you grab the stick with both hands like this, okay? With both hands, and you block a sideways strike. So my partner also has a stick, and they're attacking me sideways, and against that, I go like that, and I block. So the attack is coming here, and I go force to force, just like the name. So I go force to force, and then from there, actually, the arm snaked over their stick, and you go into a disarm technique. So it was a set, you know. So it was a block and a disarm as a set. It was a combo technique. All right. So that was the force to force block. Now, like I said, it was one of many techniques. There was nothing really necessarily special about it. I actually like that disarm, but I don't, you know, I've modified everything, so it's changed. But back in the day, I really liked the disarm. Didn't really think much of the force to force block. And the way it was taught to me, no one thought of anything about the force to force block. No one said anything special about it, or like this move right here, this is super special. No one said anything like that. So I'm telling you guys right now that in B1 Escrima, it's ultra important. It is the premier technique. If you had to learn only one move that I teach, that's one I recommend. Okay. Why? Because, like I said, it's very, very practical, very realistic. That's the one I'll be using. If a guy came out and started stabbing people with a knife, that's what I'm going to use to protect myself. So that is the force to force block. So that's why I recommend it. Okay. I've cross-trained with people from other Filipino martial arts, people from other Kia, Kali, Escrima, Arnis. Same thing. Not one of those people ever said that the force to force block is this special move. No, nobody, nothing. Okay. So that's one thing I wanna make sure, because, you know, like people will lie. You know, they'll act like, oh yeah, we teach that too, and it's very effective. It's like, yeah, you teach it too, but you've never said that it was super effective. So now all of a sudden you're saying so don't lie. Okay, so I'm here to say no, at least from my viewpoint, is super effective. So when I first learned the force to force block, I didn't think it was anything really. But then when I was teaching my students some kickboxing, so I'm holding the mitts, right? The forearm pads, the forearm shields. I'm holding that, and my students are doing kickboxing, and so they're kicking me, and I'm you know, with the pads, boom, and I'm like, okay, give me, you know, let's do 20 kicks, boom, boom, right, like that, right, or even some punches, combos mixed in. So I was doing that for them, and so I was holding those mitts, and I just realized this is the force to force block. My hands are here as if I'm holding a stick, and I'm swatting down. Once I made that connection, then the sticks and empty hand got immediately connected. We're using the same technique for the sticks, same technique for empty hand. And you might go, well, no, because what you learned wasn't this, it was this way, right? Filipino martial arts is full of variations. So if you've been doing Filipino martial arts, you know that there's a bunch of variations. So in my head, it's just a variation. So whether I do the force block this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this, it don't matter. Those are all the same. It's the force to force block, because that's the way Kia is. And so when we're doing this, when I'm doing this motion, with the forearm mitts, I was like, this is the force to force block. So once that connection was made, what we're doing with the sticks is the same as the empty hand, which is the one system which was taught to me back in the day, that what you do with the sticks, you can do the same movements, the same techniques with knife, empty hand, improvised weapons, whatever. So I learned from the very beginning that it is a one system. And here it is again, when I realized that the Muay Thai form pad work was the same with the sticks. Once again, that was another reaffirmation for me that, you know, this is a one system. So anyway, another hint was I asked my students, So 1990 is when I learned the force-to-force block many years later. So I'm talking like, easily like 2 decades later. But now I have students and I'm teaching. And with my students, I asked, I remember asking them a few times, it's like, here's a training knife. Don't let me see. Don't tell me when. I want you to attack me with it and see if you could score. Just whenever. Okay, so use this training knife and attack me. Don't let me know when it's coming. Catch me off guard. That's the goal. And when they did that, I didn't know what was coming. Like, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Whoa, and what came out was the force-to-force block. Boom. Whoa, like that. Oh, you almost got me, or you got me, or whatever. But force-to-force block is what naturally came out. It could have been Heaven Six, could have been, any number of Filipino martial arts moves, any of the sombrada techniques, roof block, none of that. What came out was the force-to-force block. So that was another confirmation to me how important this force-to-force block was. And so before that, I had already realized that it was important. So I came up with a partner drill for the force-to-force block. I was like, if this move is that important, we need to drill this. We need to practice this. How do we do that? Well, if you go by Filipino martial arts Kia logic, they're all about partner drills. So I created a partner drill for it because there was none. So I did. But I'm following what anyone would do in Kia. So to me, it wasn't that I created something new or, I reinvented. No, to me, I was just following Kia logic. So if you do that, you come up with drills, and we did. We came up with a bunch of drills. We're still holding the stick like this, and the partner would attack in many different ways, and you use the force-to-force block to block it in many different ways. And out of that, the most basic defense angles is a diamond. Okay. So I also realized that the diamond, I get like this angle right here, I go up or I could go down. Same move over here, I go up or down. And then the bottom the same, up or down, up or down. Any attack that's coming at me is going to fall into this diamond. At some point, it needs to pass through this diamond. So I don't need to protect all of this. I just need to protect the diamond, the dangerous areas that the attack will be coming in. So that's just logic, and that's one of the things we were doing. Another thing was, I knew that wanted to go to the knife. The knife was something that meant a lot to me. It was my favorite weapon. So if we're going to go to the knife, then I'm not going to get all of this. So then I started realizing that, okay, then let's make it shorter to prepare for the knife. So what if I only had this much, So once you start doing it like this, it became so much harder, but at the same time, I felt like, well, that's just skill practice. That means you just don't have the skill yet, so practice more. Now I don't have that viewpoint. It's evolved more, but that was one of the things. And with also that came, not only do you shorten the stick, so you're shortening the actual defense area, different grips. So it didn't have to be this. It could be this. It could be this. It could be this. It could be here. It could be here. It could be like this. Those are just variations. Once again, Kia loves variations. So I was just like, it's the same thing, just a bunch of variations. Now, the next thing I had to go into was, okay, so once you understand that I could hold the stick normal, but if the attacks come in here and I block it this way, that's what makes it force-to-force block. All right. So then I was like, wait a minute. Everybody does that in Kia. So everybody, 90% or even higher of the people that do Kia already doing force-to-force block. They just don't know it. It's not called force-to-force block, but that's what they're doing. So then that to me was huge. But then the way that we learn that is we're told that in practice, my partner comes attack me, I do this, but in real life, it would have been here on the hand. That's what everyone learns. And therefore, it's defang the snake. That's all great and everything, But once you actually spar and practice it, you realize that it's difficult to pull off defang the snake. Therefore, guess what? You're going to fall back on force to force block. So that's the truth right there. I'm not against defang the snake, but I am against the way it has been interpreted. People do defang the snake like that is going to be easy, like that's all you need to do. That's the first thing you should be going for is defang the snake. It's not true. Because if you do that, there's a very high chance that you're also going to get hit. And that destroys the purpose of defang the snake. Defang the snake it works because you're not getting hit. You know what I mean? Because if you trade, then defang the snake is, I've said this to you guys over and over. If I'm going for their arm and they're going for my neck and we trade, I'm getting the bad deal here. So it doesn't make sense. So defang the snake is about 100% about you being safe and they're getting attacked. Even if it's just a nick, as long as I'm safe, that's what's important. And those nicks add up. So that's defang the snake. But the reality is even that is hard to do. It's hard to, every time you go in for an attack, every time you're trying to make an attack, it puts you in a vulnerable position. And remember, this isn't empty hand. This is with weapons. They have a much longer reach. And even a nick can be a lot more devastating. You just can't do the stuff like that with empty hand. With weapons, the damaging is a lot more. So those are things that you cannot ignore. So what I'm trying to say is it falls back. It always comes back to the force-to-force block. And so then it's like, well, what are the advanced moves? Are they useless? No, they're not. They're there for a reason and they're good. You just have to know that they're difficult. You have to know the percentage, how much of a failure rate. You have to understand those things. If not, then yes, you're going to be putting yourself in harm's way because you don't understand that. You think that's what you're supposed to do and you go try to do this counter. You try to defang the snake. You're going to pay the price big time in real life. So I'm not saying those are useless. No, here, let me show you guys. So opponent's attack is coming. Boom. I'm going to defang the snake. Why? Because like I said, it's a high percentage move. Boom. I defang the snake. Okay. What's better than this? What's better than this is if I can angle it. So if I angle it, you can see the same attack coming in and I angle it. Now I'm hitting it down instead of going directly into it, right? So that's actually the Muay Thai forearm pads. So they're kicking me. I'm not going to run into it like this because that'll hurt my forearm even with the mitts. Some people kick that hard. So what I'm doing is I'm swatting it down. Swat it down, right? So that changes the angle. So if you're able to change, that's what you're going for, is you're actually changing the angle and now you start getting into redirection. And now if you can do that, you can parry. If you can parry, now we're going into, like, it's not just a check, it's a parry. You could start doing trapping stuff. It starts opening the door for higher level techniques. The best one, if you're just using logic, what would be the best? What's the best technique? The best technique is they're coming to attack me here, and instead of going force to force, instead of angling, I go behind it. I go behind it. Now I have complete redirection control, and I can manipulate it. That's the best. Guess what? That is the hardest, like I said. And when you go into that, now you also need sensitivity. So I can understand why Wing Chun, Jeet Kune Do, and some other fencing systems, like actual fencing, sword fighting, they do that kind of stuff. I get it, because if you can do that, man, the attacks that become available to you are fantastic. It's just hard to do. And in a real life situation, someone jumps you, someone comes out of the dark alleyway and they got a knife. I doubt the percentage is just too low to pull something like that off. So then you're going to fall back to the force-to-force block. Now, is there something even higher percentage? Is there something even more basic than the force-to-force block? Yes, there is. But that is so bad that I don't really think it's going to be that usable. So force block to me is like the lowest tier. Anything more basic than that. For example, they want to hit me in the face. Let's say they want to punch me in the face, right? What's the best way that I could make sure that we're both going to be, that I can target their attack? The best way, I think, is for me to get my face and run into their punch, right? So their punch wants to hit me here. So if I did this, that's the best way to make that happen. If I just stay here, they might miss. Maybe they're scared, or maybe they're, they're not that accurate or whatever. But if I helped, if I actually ran my face into their fist, that is the highest percentage. That's probably, we're going to a 90% chance. Boom, this is going to happen. Okay. However, is that a useful self-defense technique? So if I covered up and I did the same thing, guarantee is going to hit, right? So, because obviously I don't want to just do this. So I'm doing this and I'm running into it. I'm running into their punch. Like I said, that's a high chance, but would I recommend that to a 70-year-old grandma for self-defense? No, she might get knocked out, right? Of course not. So that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. That is not something we want. Force-to-force block, much better, because to do it properly, once again, following Filipino martial arts logic, the attack's coming in, I'm going to hit it, and I'm not going to hit it going into it. I'm hitting it moving out of the way. It's proper body mechanics. So the attack's coming this way, then I hit it, and look, my body's going away from the attack, right? So that would be the proper body mechanics that comes from Filipino martial arts. That's how you do it. So if a grandma did this, I think she would be, not this, but this, she has a much better chance of pulling that off and protecting herself. So, is there something better than the force-to-force block? Like I said, there's a bunch of stuff that's better. It's just now we're getting to the territory of it's difficult to do. So this is why the force-to-force block is so important. And this is what I teach, because to me it's also important. I have the mindset from Captain Fairbairn, which is, in a short amount of time, the average person or the average soldier needs to learn this to protect their life. So not something that, is an amazing, awesome technique, but it could take a lifetime to learn. Then I'm not interested in that, I'd like to know it. To me, it's important knowing the percentage of, I'm not saying it's useless. I'm just saying we need to know the percentage of it coming out, and can I use this technique? Not how effective it is. Can I use it? Because that will affect how effective it is or not. Because even though it's an amazing counter, even though it would take out the opponent completely, if I can't use it in real life, or the percentage or the situation will never occur, then it's not a good idea. Okay, because you cannot ignore those things. So anyway, I hope this sheds some light on the force-to-force block, on what it is. Did I already explain that? Yeah, I already explained about the variation in grips. So this, like I said, there's many variations that you can do. It doesn't have to be this, okay? It's just, this is where it started from. And then now, my latest evolution was to do it like this with double stick. Why? Because that's how you hold the bag. Boom, 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 right? So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.